Heartwarming moment, black cashier gives 85 to elderly woman, but here's the shocking truth. In a bustling grocery store in Middle America, something truly astonishing unfolded, a tender scene that brought tears to everyone's eyes and then quickly turned ice cold. As the fluorescent lights flickered overhead, illuminating the faces of shoppers whose brows were furrowed with worry over rising prices, a young black cashier named Jamal stood behind the register. He glanced down at the elderly woman in front of him, her wrinkled hands trembling as she counted the silver and copper coins in her palm. Only 85 cents. Just a handful of coins to fuel her desperate need for that loaf of bread. But then, as if pulled by an unseen force, Jamal took a step forward, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. With a quick glance around, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a single crumpled dollar bill, laying it on the counter in front of her, his eyes shining with empathy and an unexpected determination. The small crowd hovering nearby shifted, eyes wide, gasps echoing off the walls. They could feel the warmth of the moment, a spark of human kindness, but something felt off. Did anyone notice the way the woman's fingers twitched, like a marionette suddenly cut from its strings? Or the flicker of dread that passed across her face as she accepted the dollar? It was as if she had exchanged one burden for another, something far heavier than mere coins. Whispers erupted among the witnesses. What's the real story here? Someone muttered, inching closer, curiosity driving them like a moth to a flame. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the murmurs swirled like an autumn breeze, the tension in the room escalated. People exchanged glances, some narrowing their eyes at the scene. What had Jamal really done? This seemingly simple act of kindness, could it be tied to something darker? A rush of dread mingled with the warmth of compassion filled the air. Jamal's hands trembled slightly as he looked back into the woman's eyes, but what did she see? Fear? Relief? Confusion? The crowd watched, breath held tight, as the elderly woman suddenly gripped Jamal's hand, her voice shaky. You don't know what you just did. And in that flicker of an instant, just before the clock ticked again, an unspoken question hung heavy in the air. What was it that she truly meant? And then, the moment shattered. A loud clang echoed across the store as a tin can toppled from a nearby shelf, startling everyone back to reality. What dark truth lurked beneath this generous act? Questions buzzed like bees in the minds of onlookers, each one eerier than the last. Unseen stories whispered within the walls of the grocery store, waiting to be unraveled. Jamal felt the elderly woman's grip tighten around his hand, an unexpected pulse of fear sending shivers through him. The crowd was silent now, all eyes glued to them, the weight of their stares heavy and suffocating. Thoughts raced through his mind. What had he gotten himself into? An unspoken challenge pulsed in the space between them, filled with questions that begged for answers. The woman's eyes darted around the store, as if searching for something or someone. Her voice lowered, barely above a whisper, "You need to leave. Now." It was not just a warning, it was a command drenched in urgency. Jamal's heart raced as he tried to make sense of it. "What do you mean?" He managed to stammer while easing his hand away, his own pulse thrumming violently. Suddenly, the store's fluorescent lights flickered, casting long shadows that danced ominously across the aisles. A chill crept up Jamal's spine as he noticed a figure lurking at the end of the aisle, shrouded in an ominous darkness. The figure seemed to be watching, their intent unreadable. Was it a coincidence? A trick of the light? It didn't feel right. The crowd shifted uneasily, whispers of confusion ricocheting around them. Is this some kind of joke? A young man asked, narrowing his eyes at the woman. Anger laced with fear tinged his words. But Jamal wasn't listening. His gaze was drawn back to the figure, who now stepped forward slightly, their face obscured but eyes glinting with something predatory. "What is going on?" he whispered to the woman, who seemed completely unfazed by the growing crowd. Her focus remained on the figure as if it were calling her name. The tension coiled tighter around them, an electric atmosphere thick with foreboding. "You don't understand," she murmured, her voice hoarse. "They'll come for you next." The words clawed at his insides painfully. Next. What had he stumbled into? He had only wanted to help. A moment later, the figure turned abruptly, sprinting out of the exit. The crowd gasped, a multitude of startled breaths filling the store. Jamal's heart raced even faster. "Who was that?" he demanded, his voice cutting through the whispers. The woman's eyes widened, and for the briefest of moments, he saw a flicker of sadness mixed with fear. "Someone who knows," she began, but her voice trailed off as if an unseen hand had clamped down on her words. Suddenly, a loud siren shrieked from outside, slicing through the stillness like a knife. Panic surged through the crowd, creating a wave of chaos as shoppers darted for the exits. Jamal clung to the woman's arm, refusing to let her disappear among the crowd. "What do you know?" But just then, the store manager appeared, panic-stricken, searching the crowd. He locked eyes with Jamal, and the flicker of recognition sparked dread. "You shouldn't have gotten involved," the manager said, a shake in his voice as he approached. "You don't understand how deep this goes." Jamal felt his breath catch in his throat. An invisible thread connected them all, a dark connection that haunted the very essence of the store. "What do you mean?" He needed answers, needed to know the truth that lay hidden beneath the surface. The woman suddenly pulled closer, frightened eyes darting towards the manager. "Get out of here, Jamal. You might still be safe." Her desperation echoed in his ears, and instinct kicked in. He turned, ready to flee, but the siren blared louder, signaling a storm brewing just beyond the doors. What had he stumbled into that had everyone so terrified? And what dark fate was lurking, waiting to ensnare him? With the sound of crashing glass echoing in the distance, he dashed towards the exit. The time for questions was running out, and he sensed that the truth was far more horrifying than he could have ever imagined. As he pushed through the fleeing crowd, a chilling thought seized him. Was this kindness he had shown truly the catalyst for something sinister, and, more importantly, was he already too late to escape its grasp? Jamal burst through the exit, his heart pounding relentlessly in his chest. The cold night air hit him like ice water, sharp and shocking. He stumbled a few steps into the empty parking lot, half expecting to find some semblance of safety, but dread hung thick in the atmosphere. The sirens blared incessantly in the background, swirling panic still kicking up behind him in the store. He turned back to the entrance, searching desperately for the woman. Her piercing gaze stayed imprinted in his mind. He felt an overwhelming sense of urgency to go back, to protect her. But the fear that gripped him held him in place, rooted on the asphalt, watching as shoppers spilled out of the store like litter in the wind. Where did she go? Jamal muttered under his breath, scanning the chaos. Shadows darted around, darker than the night itself, but they all blended together. Frantic faces, racing hearts, and an eerie sense of impending doom. He felt a tugging sensation in his gut, that she was still out there somewhere. That she was counting on him. To do what? He didn't know. He had only been trying to lend a helping hand. Swallowing hard, he forced those thoughts down. He had to act. Suddenly, a figure emerged from behind a nearby car, its movements quick and fluid. Jamal's blood ran cold as he readied himself for the confrontation. It was the figure from the aisle. The one that had sent the whole store into a frenzy. The dim light from the lamp flickered above, barely illuminating the contours of the figure's face. Jamal. The voice was raspy but unmistakable. It was the elderly woman, desperately swaying as if pushed by some invisible force. The raw desperation in her eyes was too much to bear. "Get away from here!" she shouted, but there was no time. With a suddenness that took his breath away, the figure lunged. Jamal's instincts kicked in. He dodged left just as the figure tried to grab him, feeling the rush of air whip past his face. Adrenaline flooded his veins, amplifying the chaos around him. Jamal spotted a nearby dumpster and sprinted toward it. He slashed behind it, hoping to catch his breath and plan his next move. From his hidden spot, he peered around the edge. The woman was still standing at the edge of the parking lot, locked in a staring contest with the shadowy figure. "You shouldn't be here," she yelled, voice trembling, but ferocity igniting within her. Jamal couldn't hear the rest, his heart racing furiously against the sound of the siren. Then, he saw the manager burst out of the store, a frantic expression gracing his features. "Get back!" he shouted, waving his arms. "It's not safe." The figure whipped around at the sound of the manager's voice, and Jamal felt both a thrill of hope and a jolt of fear all at once. What was happening? The world twisted again as the ground shook underfoot, a low rumble echoing from behind the store. It felt like the earth itself was shifting. What was lurking behind the curtain of night? Jamal pressed against the dumpster, his breath coming in ragged spurts. The woman's eyes locked onto his for a split second, a shared moment of understanding passing between them, screaming that they were all caught in something larger than themselves. But was it too late? Was anyone going to make it out of this? Just then, the ground trembled violently, and with a horrifying crunch, an explosion erupted from the store, sending shards of glass raining down like deadly confetti. Jamal flinched, staring wide-eyed, as the scene before him transformed into chaos. Did they have a chance? His heart raced frantically. Was anyone beyond the dumpster safe? As he stood frozen amidst the wreckage, his mind screamed a startling realization. There was a truth hidden here, one both terrifying and deeply entrapping, and it was going to unfold faster than he could comprehend. But the louder the chaos became, the more time slipped away from him. What had he truly stumbled into, and how deeply entwined were they all in its darkness? The air thickened with smoke and fear as sirens wailed, drowning out the pounding of Jamal's heart. Clenching his fists tightly, he pressed himself behind the dumpster, catching glances at the writhing chaos unfolding around him. The fragility of life felt tangible, like a thin film stretched taut, ready to snap. The elderly woman's figure swayed, ghost-like against the backdrop of frantic movements. He could see the shadowy figure retreating, calculating its next move. Would she be next? Jamal's gut twisted. He had to save her, but how? A million thoughts raced through his mind, each more frantic than the last, until one emerged above the rest. There could be something weaponizable among the debris that as the glass and dust settled, he spotted a metal pipe half buried beneath the wreckage. It caught the dim light just enough to shine a dull silver. Jamal forced himself to breathe and crawled toward it, the rough pavement scraping against his skin. No time for hesitation. The moment had arrived to choose courage over fear. He gripped the pipe tightly, feeling the cold metal against his palm. It felt right. He could buy time for the woman, or perhaps even confront the nightmare that was unfolding before them. Just as he steadied himself to stand, a chilling scream pierced through the air, freezing him in place. "Help! Help!" It was the woman, her voice cracked as if struck by a hammer. Jamal's pulse quickened. He peered cautiously around the dumpster, clenching the pipe like a lifebuoy around a sinking ship. The shadowy figure had advanced toward her again, eyes glowing in the remnants of the parking lot's flickering lights. Panic gripped him. Jamal couldn't let this go on. He launched himself out from the safety of the dumpster and shouted, "Hey! Get away from her!" The figure abruptly halted and turned, its focus snapping toward him with predatory intensity. It was almost as if it had been waiting for him, a marionette ensnared by its invisible strings. The woman's eyes widened in horror. "No, Jamal! Get back!" But it was too late. The figure charged forward, a spectral blur cutting through the chaos. Jamal swung the pipe with a scream, adrenaline surging through his veins, connecting with a sickening thud. The impact reverberated up his arm, but he didn't falter. The figure stumbled back, snarling, and the ghastly sound twisted Jamal's stomach. He didn't let up. He lunged again, but this time the figure tackled him to the ground, weight pinning him down. He struggled, grasping for air as panic clawed at his throat. "Run!" He managed to gasp, eyes darting to the woman, whose expression transformed from fear to determination. She began to move, taking hesitant steps toward the unfolding battle. With all his strength, Jamal pushed, managing to partially free himself. He could see her defiance ignite, as she reached for something wedged in her purse. The faint shimmer of a blade glinted in the fractured light. "Get away from him!" she shouted, now emboldened, rushing forward. The turmoil around them swirled, but it felt as if time slowed in that moment. Jamal could feel everything hanging in the balance, their lives and the truth buried under layers of darkness. His mind raced with questions as the woman approached closer, a fierce resolve igniting in her eyes. But what kind of secrets did she hold? What brought her here tonight, twisted in the grip of fate's fatal game? The answer seemed to loom just beyond reach. Then the earth shook again, and the sky seemed to fracture open with a flash of brilliant light, overwhelming in its intensity. What had they awakened? In that fleeting moment, everything shifted, and suddenly Jamal understood, this was just the beginning. Jamal's breath came in ragged gasps as the figure above him snarled, its piercing eyes locking onto his with a predatory hunger. Time felt like it stood still, the air thick with a sense of impending doom. He pushed against the weight pressing down on him, but it barely budged. The pierce of metal against his skin brought him back, and he remembered the pipe in his hand. With a surge of desperation, he twisted his body, swung the pipe with all his might, and connected again. This time, it felt different. The impact sent a crack reverberating through the night. The figure howled, staggered back, but it wasn't defeated. Jamal's eye caught the woman for just a quick moment. She was close now, her blade shimmering ominously, bravery etched on her face. Their gazes met, and unspoken determination passed between them, but the monster was recovering quickly. "Get to safety!" Jamal yelled, urging her to flee. The words clawed at his throat, filled with dread. Did he have enough power left in him? With an imposing roar, the figure lunged once more, and suddenly there was a blur of motion, a blade, then a quick flash of silver slicing through the air. The woman struck with ferocity, her hand steady, but even as the blade met the figure's side, it seemed to absorb the impact like a shadow swallowing light. The creature recoiled, revealing thick, viscous fluid, almost like oil, but it remained undeterred. Jamal felt a pang of horror. This thing was more than it appeared. "Don't!" His voice broke as he pushed himself up, fighting against the darkening inside him, the fear that threatened to consume everything. The old woman took a step back, breathless, shocked at the monster's resilience. I can't focus!" Jamal shouted, pushing to his feet despite the pain coursing through his body. Adrenaline coursed through his veins. He pointed toward the shadowy figure, determination surging as he felt himself stand taller. "We divide and conquer. Distract it." There wasn't time to hesitate. The elderly woman nodded, resolve flooding back into her eyes. She readied her stance, weapon held low but steady. The energy crackled in the air as the figure snarled, almost mocking them, revealing rows of jagged teeth that glinted in the eerie flicker of lights. They moved forward as one, Jamal taking the lead, brandishing the pipe like a knight of olden stories. The creature lunged, a deadly arc aimed at him. Jamal dove to the side, narrowly avoiding its grasp. It was quick, too quick, and the realization struck him like a cold knife. They couldn't take it down in a head-on fight. "Flank it!" he shouted. They needed a better strategy. The woman darted around, circling the creature as it spun to keep both of them in sight. Jamal's heart raced. Could they really outsmart this nightmare? Suddenly, the brightness in the night sky intensified, and an ear-splitting crack of thunder echoed, rattling the ground beneath them. Jamal looked up just in time to see brilliant blue lightning split the sky, illuminating the scene like a flashbulb, momentarily freezing everything. The chaos, the fear, the surreal battle for survival. In that chilling moment of silence, time felt suspended. Jamal's heart skipped a beat as the power of the storm resonated deep within him. But then an ominous shift. The shadowy figure's eyes glowed even brighter, seemingly fueled by the energy crackling around them. It answered the storm's challenge with a primal roar that rattled the very foundations of the asphalt. "What the hell is going on?" the woman cried, her confidence cracking. Jamal felt it too, a surge of fear pressing down on him. The air felt charged, filled with electric desperation. What had they awakened? What were they dealing with? The possibilities unveiled before them were as endless as the chaos surrounding them, and in that moment, Jamal realized, they were not just fighting for their lives, they were inching towards a truth buried deep within everything that was unfolding, the truth that could set or doom them in this monstrous game. As thunder rumbled and the figure lunged once more, something deep inside Jamal shifted. He had to know. But as the ground quaked again, he wondered, was fighting back enough, or was there something greater at stake? Jamal's pulse thundered in his ears, drowning out the world around him. Each breath was shallow, the air thick with tension. The woman had already begun her flanking maneuver, weaving and darting like a dancer evading shadows. With nowhere to run, Jamal's eyes remained locked on the creature. The monster seemed to feed off the storm's energy, its figure morphing, twisting, becoming something even darker, more powerful. He gripped the pipe tighter, his knuckles turning white. He could feel it, the raw hunger emanating from the beast, an insatiable desire that chilled him to the bone. "Start with distraction," he yelled, urgency slicing through the fear gathering in his gut. He needed to buy them time. The elderly woman, renewed fire in her eyes, flung her knife with surprising speed. The blade, cutting through the air, struck the creature's arm with a sickening thud. This time, it didn't absorb the blow, it hissed, an unholy sound that echoed through the alley as the creature stumbled. "Now!" Jamal shouted, seizing the moment. He charged forward, swinging the pipe high over his head. The impact met flesh with a sickening crack, and the thing screeched, sliced through the stormy night. It staggered back, and Jamal could almost taste victory. But instead, it shifted again. Pain seared through his arm where he had struck, and he stumbled, disoriented by the sudden feedback. With the brightness from the lightning fading, the shadows grew deeper, burrowing into his thoughts, whispering doubts and fears. That it lunged again, closer this time, moving with a speed that left Jamal gasping for air as he sidestepped, narrowly avoiding its gaping maw. He turned to see the woman fighting back with renewed ferocity, her face streaked with sweat. Was she betting everything just to survive? "Stay focused," she called out, but her voice trembled with uncertainty. Above them, the storm raged on, the roar of thunder complementing the chaos below. Jamal's mind raced. Why was this creature drawn to the storm? What power did it have, and how could they break through its defenses? A spark of inspiration ignited in his chest. "Wait!" Jamal yelled, his voice cutting over the tumult. "The lightning! It's charged. We need to draw it out." The woman hesitated, confusion washing over her. "Draw it out? Are you crazy? Trust me." Jamal roared, determination surging. "If it thrives off this energy, we need to lure it away from the storm's heart. Away from us." He caught her gaze. For a split second, uncertainty flickered, but then they were united. Each moved with instinct, the air thick with their purpose. Jamal darted to the edge of the alley, the monster on his heels, rage spilling from its snarling lips. "Come on, you ugly bastard!" he taunted, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. The creature's eyes flared with rage, fixating solely on him. Behind him, the old woman circled wide, adjusting her stance for the next strike. Jamal could barely breathe as he felt the electricity crackle in the air. The storm roared, its throaty growl matching the chaos inside him. Would this work? Suddenly, the ground trembled, and something within Jamal stirred. He felt raw energy surge through him. Was it the storm? Or the adrenaline? For the first time, every pulse of lightning felt interconnected, almost like a heartbeat. It was as if the storm was alive, an ally hidden in plain sight. The figure lunged one last time, bearing down upon him. Jamal shouted, releasing every ounce of fear and fury. But was it enough to turn the tides of the battle? Or had they just awakened something far worse? In that moment of chaos, thunder roared once more, lighting up the night sky. Jamal barely had time to brace himself for what was to come. As the lightning struck a nearby lamppost, everything changed. What power was surging within him, and could he harness it before it all crumbled to dust? The lightning split the sky, blinding Jamal for a moment. He staggered, hands pressed against his eyes, the world becoming a brightness that burned in his mind. But then, something else grew in that light, something dark and twisted. The creature screeched, the sound morphing into an eerie echo that rattled his bones. Jamal blinked away the dazzle, emerging into clarity as he felt the heat radiating off the lamppost that had been struck. "Now!" he shouted, forcing the words through a throat thick with determination. The storm crackled overhead, as if waiting for the right moment to unleash its power completely. Jamal turned to the old woman, his resolve firm. "We have to create a path, lure it towards the light." She nodded, her steady gaze filled with purpose. Together, they moved swiftly, using every ounce of their remaining energy to set their trap. Jamal charged back towards the creature, the pipe raised once more. "Simon! Here!" he yelled, adrenaline fueling his moves. The monster roared, its ghastly form twisting as it swiped at Jamal, who barely ducked in time. The way it moved felt almost sentient, as if it knew their every intention. The old woman circled, utilizing the shadows, every movement calculated and precise, drawing closer to the flicker of light from the lamppost. Jamal was acutely aware that every step he took into the darkness tested his bravery so deep, he felt the weight of his choices. "Fear doesn't own me," he muttered under his breath, the words digging into him like a mantra. The storm surged, amplifying the raw power that pulsed through the air. He could feel it again, energy coalescing, breathing life into his veins. He was becoming a part of this struggle. With every heartbeat, he began to sense the monster's vulnerabilities, every beat syncing with the world around him. "Jamal!" The woman's voice called, urgent and sharp. A lightning bolt cracked once more, illuminating the alley just in time for him to see the creature shift, recalibrating, preparing to strike, its eyes glowing with fierce hunger. In that brief moment of clarity, Jamal realized the creature's hunger wasn't just for flesh, it was a hunger for chaos, for fear, for everything they had become in this harrowing night. This beast embodied despair, it thrived in the darkness they were fighting. "Give it something to consume," he shouted, as he snatched a broken crate from the side of the alley. "Something bright." She understood instantly and threw her knife towards the lamppost, where it struck with a metallic clang. The world stood still for a heartbeat as the monster paused. Then the light flickered erratically, as if rebelling against the storm and the shadows alike, the creature lunged, drawn to the chaos enveloping the light like moths to flame. Jamal's heart raced. The plan might work. "Now!" Jamal yelled, combining both their strengths. As he swung the pipe, a flash ignited the sky outside, linking them to something beyond their physical selves. But in the back of his mind crawled an unsettling thought: what if they lost control of what they had unleashed? What if the energy they harnessed became the very thing that defeated them? "Jamal!" The old woman's voice echoed in his mind just as he felt an energy surge, coursing through him, beckoning a promise intertwined with danger. The storm intensified, the booming thunder enveloping the alleyway. Everything seemed to pulse, and moments blurred together. What power had they woken? Jamal felt a tether tighten around his heart as he screamed. Was the storm their ally or the very force that had summoned this nightmare? The air thickened, drenched in tension. With the fate of their lives hanging in the balance, could they truly harness the storm's power, or would it devour them whole? As the creature advanced, darkness swirling, anticipation gripped his chest. Would it all come crashing down? In that heartbeat, Jamal knew they had only scratched the surface of a much larger fight. Jamal lunged, adrenaline coursing through him like molten fire. The creature's screech rattled the bricks, a symphony of terror melding with the storm's fury. The old woman mirrored his bravery, her eyes aflame with focus as she flanked him, weaving a path through shadows that pressed like hands against their backs. "Keep it distracted," she urged, her voice steady yet urgent. Time felt elastic, stretching around them as he swung the pipe again, the metallic clang ringing out like a desperate beacon. The monster turned sharply, slashing its claws through the air, a whirlwind of rage fueled by Jamal's fear. "Over here, you nasty thing!" Jamal shouted, waving the pipe like a torch. The creature's glowing eyes fixed on him, swirling with dark intent. Each breath grated like sandpaper against his throat, but he pushed it away. Lightning illuminated the alleyway again, revealing the creature's jagged teeth and slick, glistening skin. Jamal's resolve wavered for just a moment as terror crept in. "If it gets past us," the thought pressed heavy against his chest, but resolve surged back like a tide. He couldn't let that happen, not now. The old woman tossed pebbles, each click against the pavement quickening the beast's approach. Jamal's heart thundered in his ears as the creature lunged, sleek and terrifying. It was as if the entire storm spiraled in its direction, a harbinger of calamity that seemed nearly unstoppable. "Focus!" she shouted, and Jamal forced himself to lock his gaze on the monstrous figure. The streetlight flickered uneasily above them, a solitary anchor amid the chaos. With frantic energy, Jamal chanted silently, a rhythm of hope against despair. "Come to the light, come to the light." With each ragged breath, he summoned the strands of storm energy that surged around them. He felt the air vibrate with something alive, something that begged to be tamed. "Now!" The old woman's voice shattered his concentration just as the world erupted around them. Jamal swung again, hitting the nearest lamppost. A shower of sparks fell, light dancing wildly in the darkness, pulling the creature's attention. But then, that moment of triumph turned sour. The lamppost crackled, emitting an ominous sound before spiraling into darkness. "What the hell?" Jamal whispered, fear pulsing anew through his veins. The light diminished, and deep shadows enveloped him, thick and suffocating. The creature swiveled toward him, and he felt its presence more than saw it, a wave of cold dread crashing over him. This wasn't just a fight for survival. This was a test, a reckoning of everything they had ever faced. "Don't let it get too close," the woman cautioned, her eyes wide with urgency. Jamal searched for any glimmer of light but was met with an oppressive darkness that felt alive, like a predator stalking its prey. That he glanced around, searching for something, anything that could give him an edge. An old car sat forgotten in the alley, windows smeared with grime. An idea sparked. "We need to move." He dashed towards it, adrenaline quickening his footfalls. When he reached the car, he ripped off the side mirror. It shone, defiant against the murky shadows. This could work. But just as he regained his breath, the creature lunged again, fury snapping its jaws dangerously close. Jamal dodged, the mirror somehow instinctively guiding him. And with every dodge, his courage buoyed him. He realized, through the fear and chaos, they had one chance left, one final throw of the dice. "Get ready. On 3. The storm raged, the noise overwhelming, but Jamal felt something shift. He could harness this chaos, turn it back onto the creature. He hadn't just woken the storm, they were part of it. Point 1. A premonition rippled through him. 2. The shadows surged forward, eager for blood. 3. He hurled the mirror with all his might. Would it catch the light? Would it reflect hope against despair? In that fleeting second, as the monster barreled towards them, Jamal held his breath, hoping they weren't about to plummet into darkness forever. What would happen if the light was snuffed out completely? And what if, just maybe, they weren't alone in this fight? The mirror spun through the air, a glint of silver tumbling toward its target. Jamal's heart raced. He could almost hear the heartbeat of the creature, a visceral thudding that matched his own. Time slowed as the wing of the storm wrapped around them, its breath hot with anticipation. Silence fell, almost unnaturally so. The scream of the wind faded, leaving only the sound of his pulse in his ears. The mirror had to reach the creature. For a moment, it felt like everything hinged on that frantic spiral. Would it catch the light? Would hope burst through the gathering darkness? Then, impact. The mirror hit the ground and shattered into 1,000 shards, each like a tiny sun erupting from the pavement. Instantly, the alley was drenched in brightness, fragments reflecting the lightning strikes above in a brilliant dance. The monster halted, its glowing eyes blinking in confusion. It had never witnessed this, a collision of its darkness with something that could pierce it. Jamal's breath hitched as he saw the creature stagger, clutching at the sudden glare. Now! Move! The old woman shouted over the roar of thunder, breaking him from the spell. Jamal dashed forward, his feet pounding against the wet concrete, a new surge of courage propelling him. He wasn't just running away, he was charging toward the beast as if the storm itself were at his back, pushing him forward. The creature snarled, quickly regrouping, its jagged teeth snapping in defiance. Jamal ducked just in time. The beast's claws whipped through the space where he deep in, the air crackling with its fury. A sharp pain shot through his shoulder as he narrowly dodged the follow-up strike. Focus on its eyes. The elder called, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. They're its weakness. Jamal scrambled to his feet and readied another makeshift weapon, the remnants of an old broken bottle reflecting the jagged light. He felt the weight of her wisdom steadying his trembling hands. This wasn't just about survival, it was about fierce resistance against everything dark that haunted their world. The creature's attention returned to him, its eyes narrowing as it stepped forward, emboldened despite the pain. Jamal raised the glass, gathering every ounce of determination left within him. Hey! Over here! He thrust the broken bottle up and forward, the jagged edges glinting dangerously. The beast snarled and lunged, but Jamal's instincts kicked in. He dodged to the side, letting the monster's momentum carry it past him. Lightning cracked overhead and for a brief moment, Jamal glimpsed something stalking in the shadows behind the beast. A flicker that seemed just as monstrous but more spectrally human. A gasp clawed up his throat, but he swallowed it down. Look out! The warning rang in his ears. Too late to react, the creature turned abruptly, back toward him. The impact slammed him against the wall of the alley, breath forced from his lungs, the sharp bite of pain shooting through him. Everything went blurry for a second, but through the haze, he spotted the jagged shards of the bottle lying nearby. With ferocity born of desperation, he reached for it, grasping its sharp edge just as the beast lunged again for his throat. He felt the pull of darkness, the grip of fear wrapping around him like a suffocating blanket. Would the strength in that glass save him? In that harrowing heartbeat, certainty ignited within him. This wouldn't end tonight. Not like this. With a roar, he sprang up and smashed the glass down in a desperate arc, aiming for the creature's eyes. But then a flash of recognition in the creature's gaze shifted his focus. Those eyes contained something more than just malice, and it struck him. What if it's not just a monster? The question exploded in his mind just as the world around him trembled ominously with the storm's crescendo. Then another rumble broke through the air. Was it thunder or something else, something darker? As he struggled to his feet, Jamal sensed everything changing. Get back! The old woman screamed, and he turned to see her transfixed. Staring past him. What was coming next? And was it more terrifying than what they already faced? Jamal's breath came out in jagged bursts as the storm unleashed its full fury. He staggered against the alley wall, pain sizzling along his side. The shadowy figure loomed closer, but a fiercer resolve ignited in him. You're not winning this. He yelled into the tempest, adrenaline coursing through his veins like lightning. The woman stood firm behind him, her eyes still sharp and ready, and in that fleeting moment, Jamal felt a bond between them, forged in the urgency of survival. The dark figure stalked forward, its eyes glowing with unnatural hunger. Was this creature driven solely by malevolence, or was there something more? The thought was a flickering candle in the storm, barely visible, but enough to cling to. Jamal! To the light! The old woman shouted, breaking through his thoughts with fierce clarity. With a shout that echoed off the alley walls, Jamal darted sideways, managing to flank the grotesque beast just as it lunged for him again. "Hey! Over here!" he taunted, waving the broken shard of glass like a beacon. The creature paused, its focus shifting toward him, eyes narrowing. Jamal seized the opportunity to attack. He swung at the creature, aiming for its eyes, desperate to pierce the darkness. But at that moment, the storm surged again, thickening the air with electrifying power. He felt an unnerving energy coiling inside him, almost as if the storm recognized his fight. "Jamal!" The woman's voice shot through the noise again, urging him. She was drawing closer to the monster, knife poised, ready to aid him. The creature roared, deafening and primal, an unsettling mix of fury and pain. It lunged, aiming to sink its claws into him, but he was ready. He ducked under its swipe, twisting on his heel. "Now!" he shouted, and in perfect synchrony, the two charged forward. Jamal felt the storm pulse around them, blending rage and courage, their spirits igniting a flicker of light. The woman struck first, her blade slicing into the thing's side, making it howl in protest. Jamal followed with a swift, calculated thrust aimed directly at its other eye. Their movements were charged with an almost frantic determination, neither willing to back down. The creature staggered back, confused, as if the light suddenly illuminating their struggle had thrown it off balance. Jamal saw the fear in its eyes, the darkness wavering for a fleeting moment, but the monster roared again, regaining its momentum, eyes narrowed and feral. Jamal's heart pounded in time with the storm. But there was something more, a shift, a glimmer, a realization. It wasn't just a monster. It was a manifestation of fear and despair, thriving on chaos. In that thought, Jamal felt a moment of connection, as if a thin thread of humanity tangled with the darkness they fought. "What if," he began, while desperately retreating from the creature's fangs. "What if it can feel?" The woman looked at him, confusion painted across her face, but Jamal pressed on. "What if this creature is tied to all the fear we carry?" With an intensity he hadn't felt before, Jamal loosened his grip on the glass but kept his stance defiant. "We need to show it light," he urged the woman. "Something more powerful than darkness." She nodded, understanding dawning in her eyes, as they geared up for one final stand. The creature swung again, furious, and Jamal dodged to one side. "Distract it!" he shouted. The old woman threw pebbles directly at the monster, each one clattering against the ground, catching its attention. With every movement, Jamal gathered the remnants of the storm inside him, feeling energy coalesce like a raw force, ready to be unleashed. "Now!" he cried one last time, catching a surge of courage. As the creature lunged recklessly, he planted his feet firmly and hurled the shard of glass upward, directly into the storm. Electricity crackled, a burst of blinding light exploded across the alleyway. The mirrored shards glimmered like fragmented stars, intertwining glory and fury. The figure faltered again, eyes wide, absorbing the light for the first time. It emitted an anguished wail, raw and haunting, as if it were unraveling. "Together!" Jamal shouted, arm outstretched, awaiting the moment. They had managed to harness the power of both the storm and their resolve. Each heartbeat pulsed with the promise of hope. The woman steadied her grip, confidence returning, and with a fierce scream, she raised her knife again, striking at the creature. This time, Jamal joined her, pushing forward with the remaining energy coursing through him. As they attacked in unison, the creature seemed to dissolve into a swirling void, shrieking as the darkness peeled away, revealing the truth beneath. Its form flickered, twisting, blurring but slowly clearing. And then, just as abruptly as it began, the darkness unraveled completely, collapsing into a silent shadow. The storm raged on, but the bond between Jamal and the woman strengthened, illuminating the inky night. Both stood panting amid the remnants of chaos, staring at where the creature used to be. Jamal fell to his knees, gasping. "It's over," he whispered, more to himself than the woman. Relief washed over him. The old woman's eyes were bright, no longer piercing with fear. Instead, they twinkled with something new, a glimmer of hope. "Thank you, Jamal." Her voice trembled. "You saved us both." Jamal nodded, feeling hollow yet fulfilled, as if they had just weathered a terrible storm and come through together. The sirens still wailed distantly, but the terror that had engulfed the night lay behind them now. As they slid into silence, an unseen connection blossomed, a bond forged through fear and the triumph of light over darkness. They knew, somehow, they would carry this moment within them forever, a reminder of their strength against despair. "Let us not let this dark force define us." Jamal finally spoke, raising his gaze to the eerie stillness around them. "We're more powerful together. Always." They shared a soft smile, each knowing that the battle was over, but the journey of healing would continue. Together, and as the storm began to fade, the moon broke through the clouds, casting down gentle rays that illuminated their path forward. They were two souls, now bound by a shared fight, a lighter step under the stars ahead and a fresh hope that shone brighter than any monster lurking in the shadows. You need to subscribe now to make sure you don't miss any of the exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now if you felt the intensity of this conclusion. The algorithm needs your love. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this end. What do you think happened to the creature? Let us discuss, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Thank you.